but also, if we've just heard Aya, in the lives of millions and millions of Israeli Arabs and Jews. Haifa, Israel's third largest city, located 60 miles north to Tel Aviv, is supposedly the prime example of such daily coexistence. The 10% Arab minority in the city tends to be liberal, social, and even somewhat secular. And some of the hippest cafes and bars in town are host to hipsters, both Jewish and Palestinian, leading a cultural renaissance in the sleepy harbor city. Now, this phenomena has not escaped the media, including an in-depth report in the New York Times celebrating the hipness of it all. But the reality on the ground in Haifa might not be as rosy as some would like it to be. Coexistence is far from being achieved, and so the dream of it is more fragile than ever. Let's take a look at the special report by I-24 News correspondent Gabriella Weiniger before we dig deeper into coexistence on that front.
The Samach line of the Hejaz Railway opened in 1905, running from Dera on the Syrian border to the port of Haifa on the Mediterranean coast. Its steam engines ushered in a rapid new era to the city, making it a strategic location. And suddenly, Haifa's cultural status and economic development was on the up.
Haifa was a small village 250 years ago. So it was a big city with industry, with a train line that would take you to Beirut. Haifa today is, if you look at the Ben Gurion Street, if you look even at the Hadar, you see that the Arab community, especially young generation in the Arab community, is giving a new life, a new style to the city.
On the shady sea road of Ben Gurion Boulevard, Haifa is thriving. Palestinian-owned bars, restaurants and cafes line the path leading up to the famed Baha'i Gardens. Midway sits Fatouche, the first coffee house to open on the street back in 1998. It's now become a permanent fixture in Haifa's local and tourist culture, not just because of its array of art exhibitions and special events, but also as a place to meet and share ideas.
بفكر إنه نفسه لأنه المحل كمان واحدة من الشغلات اللي بدعمها وواحدة من الأفكار تاعته هي الحرية. حرية الرأي، حرية التفكير، حرية الكلام. إنه هنا كل واحد بيقدر يعطي رأيه الشخصي.
But not all the young guests at Fatouche felt the freedom to talk. They say the media has misrepresented cultural life in the city, painting it as a hub of coexistence between Arabs and Jews, and ignoring the historical and continued impact of the Nakba of 1948, when many residents were forced to leave or fled their homes, and the Palestinian population dropped dramatically, never to return. One young Haifa resident told us off-camera that Haifa is flourishing in spite and not because of the Israeli government. He says the occupation is not only evident in the West Bank, but in all aspects of Palestinian life in Israel itself, through the inequality and discrimination in healthcare, budget, and education. David Raziel Street on Haifa's Heights exhibits stark differences, side by side.
This road marks the boundary between the Jewish neighborhood of Tal Amal and the Palestinian neighborhood of Al Khalisa. On this side, modern Israeli homes, and on the other, Palestinian homes, old traditional houses made of old stone.
Many of them dilapidated and some abandoned forever. Here too in Khalisa, residents are unwilling to talk on camera. They say they're afraid of repercussions from the municipality, the government, and their Jewish neighbors.
Because if there is systematic discrimination in education, in the public education, the same thing in housing and also in the infrastructure. You can see immediately the gaps between the Arab neighborhoods and the Jewish neighborhoods in the city of Haifa.
Many residents feel these gaps have been ignored by the traditional, liberal coexistence narrative that typically surrounds the city. But while Haifa's rich Palestinian culture and tradition is clearly alive and well, it's still a struggle for many to keep it going.
I want to go straight to Haifa, where we're joined on the phone by Orwa Sutata, Haifa resident and an activist. Orwa, I want to thank you, or maybe not. Orwa, if you're with me on the line? He's not. Okay, joining us also from joining us also from Haifa then is with us Karim Natour, intern at the Musawa Center from Haifa. Karim, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's been hard to find people to speak with us on this issue, and that's one thing that makes me very sad, because I think it spells volumes as to how much Israeli Arabs are afraid to speak about coexistence or lack of it. You came to the city, to Haifa, from Germany on a journey to discover your roots. Am I correct in saying that?
Right, yeah, my father is Palestinian and my mother is German.
And your mother is German. And in that respect, when you grew up in Germany, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Where coexistence is slightly easier these days. Maybe that'll change as well, which is also a frightening thought. But when you look at Haifa, what would you say as somebody who's Palestinian? What are the problems? Is there coexistence in the city, actually? Would you say there is?
Well, first off, to start, I have not made friends with any, or close friends with any Jews in my age. So I'm living in what I call an Arabic bubble,
right?
Because everyone is Arabic I'm living in Wadi Nisnas. So there's no opportunity to make friends with other Jews. So I only met Arabs. So as from what I see, it's not really coexistence, but more tolerance. We have the Carmel area where the majority of Jews are living, and the downtown where it's more Arabic, and it's more a kind of a tolerance than coexistence.
Kind of a status quo, which is one thing that many people would argue is the problem with the Middle East, maintaining a status quo. Have you tried? I mean, why wouldn't you? Because I'm asking almost a rhetorical question. Why don't you go downtown to where the Jews are? Is that something that
the Carmen? I go, and there's the cinemas, the clubs, and also they have the sport activities, everything. There's much life in the Carmen Center where the majority of Jews live. But you go there with your Arab friends, you don't meet other young people. If you have a girl with a headscarf with you or something, you're not going to meet any Jews anyway. So it's kind of also a fear of from the other side to make friends with other people. For me, it's something different, because when I don't speak Arabic, people don't suppose I'm an Arab. So they talk to me, and as soon as I stop being a tourist for them, then the whole situation changes.
My God, what would you say is your impression in terms of what's going on right now in Haifa, or in Haifa or in Israel, in that matter of fact, when it comes to the Arab population?
In what matter of fact? I'm sorry.
In a matter of fact of, as you just said, when people look at you, I'm assuming they think you're German, right? I'm assuming they think you're European.
At least, yeah, European, but people tell me I look very German. So
that's something that you and I can relate to each other. But in that respect, if the fear of you as an Arab, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you more about that with an example from the train, because even in Haifa, when I go to my grandmother, when I visit my grandparents' house in Kalansawi, which is a small town in the Triangle area.
Right.
I go on the train and I have my phone with an Arabic ringtone and a Palestinian flag as a background, and then I sit across with other Jews or soldiers, and they have their machine guns right next to them, and everything's okay. And then I think about what happens if someone calls me and an Arabic traditional song comes out of my phone, and I answer in Arabic. So there's always a bit of fear, not really fear, because still it's Haifa, so there's not much incidents happen throughout the wave of violence, but still when you hear about those incidents that happen in Kiryat Ata or somewhere else where people get stabbed because they even look like an Arab, they didn't even speak, the guy didn't even talk in Arabic. So sometimes for me it's also, I'm a bit scared on the train with soldiers, and I rather turn my phone mute so nobody listens.
Karim, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. I want to invite you to Tel Aviv also, because I'm hoping that you come here and I'll listen to music with you, okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I hope so.
Karim, thank you. And I'm listening to that. It makes me very, very sad, because I think the fear runs both ways. anything, any type of regulation in place to try and include the minorities of Israel within?
Well, I think, first of all, what he's describing is something that we hear a lot. Sadly, this is something that we hear a lot. People who are worried to speak Arabic in public places are worried that the way they appear, once people understand that they are Arab, would cause them harm or cause aggression towards them. This is something that is being more and more heard in the Arab society in Israel. But it is important also to say that on the ground, on the grassroots level, you do see the infrastructure for shared living. So there are a lot of initiatives, there are a lot of people who are interested.
You're saying there's still a little hope.
Yeah, on both
Palestinians.
sides, you could see a lot of people that this is what they want and they're willing to work for it.
Them.
Yes, definitely.
I want to thank you and keep on the good work. We'll be back shortly with something entirely different about fashion. Stay with us now, the news.